How long has it been since you've been in here?
I haven't been in here for quite a few months. I don't think we were in the new Jocko Fuel warehouse. Before, like, I mean, how long have we been in the warehouses before that?
That's the last time you were in here?
Mm-hmm. Before that.
But when's the last time you recorded a podcast?
Oh, shit, dude.
Like, what's going on with a podcast? That's what I want to know.
Life, priorities, and honestly, like, the podcast actually takes capacity, you know? Like, if I'm going to do a podcast on, like, I don't know, an old mill or like an old shoe company, like, I got to do the research and come up with my talking points. I write an intro and all that stuff, and it's just not been a priority with our current growth trajectory and, you know, 5 locations being spread. Like, my goal every day is to drive around and build culture and make sure all of our little teams, little SEAL teams of 210 people are getting shit done.
That's what it is right now, 210?
210 people.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
How many people did you pick up when you guys purchased the facility in North Carolina?
100.
Oh, so you doubled.
Yeah, we doubled.
Overnight.
And that deal was in the making for I don't know how many months.
Yeah, I mean, you've been talking about it for a while.
Yeah.
What was that, just the natural cycle of things, or was there some holdups there, or what was going on with that?
Actually, today the papers are supposed to be getting signed.
So it is not even like technically official yet?
It's not technically official.
Interesting.
We signed the papers and we like took control.
Right.
But like I actually transfer funds today.
Interesting.
And take the stock certificates today.
When you do stuff like that, obviously there's a level of excitement because you wouldn't have pursued it if you weren't excited about it. But what is the other side of it? Is there nervousness? Is there any skepticism about what you guys are going to do with it?
You know, with this type of situation, because we couldn't get bank financing, like there's no, like, you're buying people. You're literally buying knowledge.
Right. You're buying experience, knowledge. Right. Sure.
And of course we're talking in the millions of dollars. So like myself, Jocko, and Deco basically took our profit over the past year and we just dumped it back in out of pocket. So it's like cash out of pocket.
Yeah.
You know?
Because that's money you could have put in your bank account.
Exactly. So, right. I mean, there's definitely some, you know, risk, I guess you could say. For me, I just see it all opportunity. Like, the things we're going to be able to lay down there. I mean, I want to do I'm calling it the kilo hoodie. I want to make 100,000 hoodies next year.
Yeah.
I'm going to go buy 250,000 pounds of American grown cotton.
I think what you're going to find is you're going to need 200,000 hoodies.
I hope so.
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Because I remember, right. So the place we're in right now, when we moved here a little over 2 years ago, if I remember right, you had just moved into this facility and I was like, man, this is huge. And I think you were thinking that too.
Yeah. For a minute.
And then what? A month later, I don't know if that's right, but
it was
long. Very quickly. You're like, this isn't that big.
Oh yeah, no, it shrunk real quick. You know, I mean, we're spread over, I think it's over 200,000 square feet now in 2 states and 5 locations.
Total space.
Yeah.
And then you have another property you just secured.
Yep.
And what are you going to do on that property?
You know, our long-term goal was to eventually build like America's future factory right here in Farmington, Maine. And my wife and I were looking at a piece of land for the past decade, which they wanted tons of money for. I mean, I think they wanted like $8 million for it.
Okay.
And it's 105 acres and it's right on the main drag.
Is that why they wanted so much? It's probably zoned for commercial. It's right there on that main road.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's zoned for commercial. It's a mile of road frontage. It's the last piece of land on the main drag. It's just, it's prime. It'd be great for like a Lowe's or a Home Depot or, something like that. So, you know, after the whole COVID thing, I was like, where's our advantage here? Like, what can we do that may be within our means that wasn't?
Right.
And so we had a realtor reach out to the owners, and everyone in our area knows what we're doing with bringing back manufacturing, whatever. And, you know, I was like, we'll offer them $1 million.
Dang.
And we'll hope that they need the money.
Yeah.
And they needed the money.
Dang.
And we bought it.
Wow.
Yeah, it was freaking amazing.
That is amazing.
Yeah. So
Do you think that's a product of just being in the right place at the right time, a product of them knowing what you're all about, or is there some divine intervention
I
going
think
on
it's definitely
there?
some divine intervention. I think a lot of it is to I mean, I'm a big believer in like visualization, and putting out there, like you gotta take action towards the things you want to do in life. We've talked about this, but this specific thing that we've been talking about for a decade, like ever since we started manufacturing, we've been talking about this space. If there was one, and you've seen me drive around, I've driven around the whole
Oh
state of Maine
yeah.
looking for, but this was the one place we wanted to be. And, putting that out there, I mean, putting it out there, praying about it, believing in the vision, doing it without compromise, doing the right thing, doing the right things behind the scenes, doing the right things when nobody's watching, having the right mindset when nobody's watching. Shit happens, good things happen. And this is one of those things. So we're super stoked about it. And then getting the bank on board for a property that hasn't been surveyed in 200 years, where one firmer said, I put a horseshoe on a tree, and the other guy said there's a birch tree 4 feet from that. Like trying to and getting the bank on board where there is no
Sure,
survey,
yeah.
right? And them believing in our vision to actually give us the note to purchase the property. I mean, that's just a big deal in itself.
Is
So
that because they've done business with you in the past?
yeah, I mean,
Because I imagine it was much harder with your early financing
It
relative
was.
to maybe what it is now.
Well, one of my advisors told me, John, you've heard me talk about him, told me one time, hey, listen, you got to stop looking at the bank as an enemy. The bank is your business partner. And guess what? They're the controlling interest. So you've got to sell them on what you want to do, and you've got to make them a true partner. And he said, at some point, you're going to be in control. He's like, and you need to play that game until you have the advantage. Well, we're the biggest client for the bank.
That's what I was going to ask is when you say when John says you're in control, what does that look like in a banking relationship?
Well, the bank they want to keep you, like they don't want to lose you as a customer. I mean, that's how the bank makes money off all the
Right, they want
interest
the
rates
interest.
of,
Sure.
$10 million in loans, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
they don't want to lose that. And honestly, what I found is that no, it is actually a real relationship. I've got my banker's cell phone number. I'll text him. I'm like, hey man, I'm looking at this. Hey, what are you thinking? What are you trying to do? What do you want to do? Like this land. I'm like, hey, I'm looking at this. I don't want to pay for it, for 2 years, 3 years. He's like, okay, I'm just going to do interest for you for the first 2 years. If you need to extend it beyond that, let me know. So it's more of a relationship than anything. And, it gets to a point where you don't feel like I feel like the risk factor goes away as we've diversified and as we've built a company. My little naive self that was scared about taking out my first $2,000 loan to renovate a barn, with the same bank,
Yeah.
and the hassle it took sitting in front of that commercial banker at 21 years old, selling him what I'm going to do to this barn, like you've done to yours.
Yeah.
Imagine being a 21-year-old kid and having a barn like that and being like, $2,000 it could be $1 million.
Sure,
It could be $10
of
million.
course.
And him and having to sell him and getting him to buy in, and then the banker not buying in, so needing to go to someone else, because of just an interpersonal relationship to basically sell it to him to make him buy in, to go from that position for $2,000 to being able to like text the banker and be like, this is
Right.
what we want to do.
And I don't
this is
wanna
how we
pay
want to
for
do
it for 2
And that's what I
years.
said. I said,
Yeah.
I don't want to put a down payment on, we've got too much going on. But we want to secure it because we're going to build 150,000 square foot factory there in 3 years. And they believe it. And I believe it. And so that's what we're going to do.
Will everything in this area then be housed there at that 150,000 square foot factory?
Yeah, everything will be there. Maybe not the nutritional division because it's just a behemoth.
Well, then it
and
requires a lot of space.
It
When you're
does.
thinking about the product and the lines and the shipping and the crates and all this stuff.
And it's just a different model. My dream for this 105 acres is to build a campus. America's Future Factory, of course, number one. Also, I want to build a factory store that is like a museum. Like when you walk in, our first loom is going to be right there in the middle of the store. And if you look beyond that loom, there's a glass wall and the factory is working behind that glass wall. And so when you walk in, you're going to have this immersive experience. You know, you're going to really see and touch and smell what it means to make in America. Like that shit ain't happening anymore.
Yeah.
You know, and it's cool. And beyond that, on this campus, you know, I want to put up a distillery, a brewery. I want to do a farm to table restaurant, like an origin steak. Like basically you're going to come in to the area just like you'd go to LL Bean or anywhere else, you know, for a full immersive experience. So that's the dream. That's the goal.
That's pretty rad.
It's a massive build.
Yeah, it is a massive build. Do you think that you've always been like, have you always been this visionary where you have these ideas and things like this, or does this just grow over time? Like, where does that come from? What does that look like for you?
I mean,
because let me say it this way: most people, when I say most, I'm talking 99.9% of people, myself included, don't think to the same degree that you are right now. So is that just something that evolves, or are there just big thinkers?
I don't know if it's big thinking or not. I work in 10-year blocks. You know, I work in opportunities of 10 because you've got 4 of them, 20 to 30, 30 to 40, 40 to 50, 50 to 60. And Lord, I hope you're enjoying your life at the age of 60 and able to do some things for 60 to 75, 60 to 80. So like my 40 to 50 is where I am right now. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking in that 10-year block, and I call this the 10-year project. So, you know, the first part of the campus is the factory. That's 3 years. 2 years after that, you know, distillery, brewery. 2 years after that, maybe a restaurant. But it's in 10-year blocks as I hopefully get my kids ready to take over. You know, my son's freshman year at business school. My daughter's a sophomore. So I'm thinking like, I always think big picture. And I always have thought big picture. I think that's maybe what makes me what some people would call a dreamer, you know, and I'd say, well, everybody's a dreamer though. You know, everybody's a dreamer.
Yeah,
you got to,
true.
you know, you're going to take action on those dreams. And I think you need the right support system to take action on those dreams. And then I think there's a lot of people out there that could do amazing things beyond maybe what they're doing in the moment that didn't have that support system. You know, and I sought out that support system. I may not have had it initially, but I went and found the people who could get behind being a dreamer and help me realize it through knowledge and sharing knowledge and how you go about it. So I continue to seek out people like that all the time.
Well, and I think that's one of the things that makes you special is that, yeah, I would say dreamer as well, but usually when people say, oh, he's a dreamer, there's a negative connotation with it.
Yes, exactly.
But the negative connotation is he's up here in the clouds and he doesn't actually implement anything, but that's not you.
Well, I mean, no, it's not. I mean, and I don't know if that makes me unique or
it does.
I don't know.
100%.
Yeah, I just.
I mean, there's other guys like you. I'm not saying you're the only one out, but it is rare, I think.
Actionable dreaming, let's call it. You know, actionable dreaming.
Because if I take my personality and you know, I have visions and thoughts and things that I want to do, but I would say I'm more of a practitioner. Like if you put something in front of me, like I'm going to figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah.
But as far as figuring out what that thing in front of me is going to be, probably not my strong suit.
Well, there's obviously gifts in having that type of a personality profile too.
Sure.
Like you surround yourself with people that compliment you, maybe that can't do the same exact thing. And that's, you know, you're doing the same exact thing from a different path, let's say.
Right.
So, I mean, I see you renovating that old barn.
Yeah, I mean,
which looks amazing.
It does look pretty amazing. I'm not going to lie.
I love shooting photos in there.
Oh, it's so cool. Yeah, that's true. I mean, when I moved there, it didn't look like that. The bones were good. You saw it. You knew what it looks like.
When I worked in that barn for the first time, I was like, this is the nicest barn I've ever been in. Not nice when people like nice. What do you mean nice? I mean like this hand hewn,
yes,
you know, mortise and tenon joinery is all true and plumb and level.
Yeah,
it was just nice.
One of the things, I don't know if you know this, but Trish and I up in the attic of the house found the old artwork for the popcorn factory.
Oh yeah.
So it's like different logos, and then we have a handwritten menu. in the original signage or something they were using in the store.
That's cool.
So Trish just went and got that framed.
Oh, you put it
And
in the house or in the barn?
We're going to put it in the bathrooms in the barn.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Because it's important to me to pay homage in a way to the
yeah.
history of that barn, and anybody who's been around for any amount of time knows that as the popcorn factory
That
or
is
the
the
popcorn
popcorn
house
factory.
or whatever they call it.
It's such a cool space.
Yeah. So one of the things you were saying is when you were talking about North Carolina and purchasing that facilities, you said you struggled a little bit with saying it's risky. I think you acknowledge that there's a risk there, but your framing of risk seems to be different than what most people's would.
Yeah, I mean, let me tell you, the risk is, this is our first, it's not our first acquisition. It's our first major acquisition. You know, mergers and acquisitions. I guess if you're in business, you know that term, right? Mergers and acquisition. You can either merge with another company, you can acquire another company, and that's like the quickest way to grow. With an already fast growing company, and we're a fast growing company, and there's got to be a lot of due diligence done in order to make sure you're making a good, like, fiscal decision.
Right.
Okay. Financially, how does this benefit us? And then, okay, where can we trim the fat and take over, management? Basically, where can we absorb some of the things, like our CFO can absorb the financial position?
Let me ask you something on that, and then I want you to keep riffing on that. Do you feel like we'll just use the word dreamer type personality? Do you feel like that's ever gotten you into trouble when it comes
100%.
to these like financial and trim the fat and all the minutia of actually what makes a successful business?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm looking at a knitting plant right now, 30 miles down the road from the factory that we're about to close on, that we haven't closed on. I'm talking about a denim mill in Louisiana. That's a startup that I've already had 2 meetings in Boston about, and I'm flying out there in 2 weeks. That's already had, I don't know, $20 million dumped into it that I think Origin should own or be part of owning. So like, I'm not even done with this deal, and I'm looking beyond, and I have to check myself. And I usually do that by consulting with other people. Is this a good idea? Here's what I'm thinking. Because I believe in it so much, it's easy for me to sell, but to myself.
You acknowledge that about yourself.
Yeah. It's easy for me to sell to myself, and it's easy for me to sell to other people because I believe in it. But what am I not seeing? And it's the same thing with this. This is our first major acquisition. What am I not seeing? And, I'm sure there are things I'm not seeing. The financial seems like it would work. It's going to be accretive to our existing business. It gives us more capacity, gives us another 100 asses in seats that can sew. There's a management team leaving that has owned the business for 50 years. And, I found out that one of the people may try to like poach some of our employees, even though we have a non-compete,
right?
Shit like that.
Yeah.
Who knows what they've said to the vendors about us, as an organization, about the new management coming in. Like, you can't control what people say behind closed doors. So I believe in our team. I believe in our mission and our vision. And I believe that that's transferable, and that our culture is transferable, and that we'll find a way to transfer that culture. So ultimately, I believe in us. And if I believe in us, then I believe in the next move. So that's how I look at it, And of course, one really, really solid person that can spearhead the organization, that has skin in the game. So I'll have Origin owns this, and we'll have a 10% business partner in the organization. So he's got skin in the game. He's got kids. I want to make sure he's got something he needs to, really be living for, which he does. His name's Jason. And that makes me comfortable and confident that he's going to do the right thing, that he's going to go about running the business the right way. Having, I think he's got 3 kids, and having grown up in that area, he wants to have a good name in the area. So I think about a lot outside of the financial side of stuff, when doing something like this.
Well, and on people too, I've noticed one of you've really been ramping up, and
Big
the
time.
only reason I really know this is because every night that I show up to jujitsu, there's like 5 new people, and I'm like, oh, are you here visiting? They're like, no, I work here. I'm
Yeah.
like, as of when? Oh, yesterday.
Bro,
Or
people are coming in from everywhere.
I know you got Austin.
Yep. He just
Jackson
moved up from Georgia.
hasn't been here too
Georgia
long,
came from Colorado. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
got Dennis. He's been training for 5 years. He's moving up from South Carolina on the 11th. We've got a bunch of people at nutrition, that have moved up. A bunch of women that have moved up. Some of them train jujitsu. They're coming over from everywhere. I get messages every day like people want to move to Maine. I'm like, no, you don't. You don't want to move to Maine. Like, it's hard living. It's been easy the last couple of years, Ryan. I know you haven't had much
Hard living.
snowstorm.
What are you talking
Has it been
about?
hard living?
No.
No, it's been easy.
It's easy, man. Knock on wood.
Yeah.
Because I know it's been mild, and I like to bust all your guys' balls about how weak you Mainers are, and like
super
this is hard. This is what you call hard, and you're like, no, bro, just wait a second.
When I was a kid, I didn't grow up with much, and my mom, we used to have a wood fireplace, a brick. It was like a Russian fireplace. It would heat it up, take a while, take all day to heat up, but then it put off heat, for the next 24 hours. If my brother and I didn't get the wood in, we used to cut it all by hand. It would get delivered. A lot of times it was green, and if you've ever cut green, so we got to.
Sucks.
It sucks. So we used to have to cut, I don't know, 5 or 6 cord, stack 5 or 6 cord, keep the wood stove, the fireplace going. And if we didn't, my mom would do what probably a lot of single moms did. She would open up the oven, the gas oven, and she'd turn the oven on, and we'd heat the house with the oven. Oh yeah.
Yeah,
So
most people don't know about that.
It was a little harder living when, old houses that are on like a rock foundation, that have minimal insulation, like that, very cold, like they'll cool off. Like if the heat goes off, it's cold in 20 minutes.
Oh, definitely.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and it just cuts through everything.
Oh yeah.
Even
Cuts through
this
walls.
morning I woke up and I'm like,
Oof.
dang, I got to put something on.
A
It's
little bit of a chill.
it's cold.
Got to put that Origin Heavy on.
Yeah, I don't have one yet.
What? Seriously?
I'm dead serious.
I think I might have one in my truck.
We'll have to track one down. I think I know a guy.
Yeah, I might know somebody.
Yeah, I don't know. So when we moved to our place, we had this old wood over oil boiler, and I was talking with Lee, who obviously you know really well, and I was like, well, what does it take to like heat this place? And based on the system they had, which we have upgraded.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He said, well, they were putting wood in here every day to keep it warm. And I said, well, like how much wood? And they said, well, they're down here like 3 times a day, morning, lunch, and dinner. I'm like, well, I'm not doing
That's
that.
what you got kids for.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't even know if I can get my kids to do that. And I said, well, how much wood? Like in a winter, 17 cord of wood.
It's a lot of wood, man.
Or no, excuse me. I think it was 20 cord.
That's too
and
much.
I still have 17 in my basement.
yeah. You
I have
gotta change
17
that
cord of wood down there.
Real quick.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, that was the first thing we did.
Oh yeah, yeah.
We got that oil boiler going, and that's nice.
That would have been some more tricky living.
Yeah, that would have been harder,
Yeah.
for sure. But there is a level of appreciation that I have for the concept of, what is it, preparing for winter or dealing with winter?
Yeah.
I actually like that.
Yep.
I like that a lot. And
You know,
I like winters here.
Think about if you're very successful. You guys are very successful. Think about if you had that big house and 4 kids, and you had like a $20,000 a year income.
Oh,
You're putting that wood in the fire. You're growing your own food.
yes.
You're making sure you harvest some big game and waterfowl, and you're putting meat in the freezer, and you're basically paying for your bills, like your wood and electricity, and that's it.
I mean, that's what my neighbor does. I mean, he makes more than 20,000 a year, but they're homesteaders.
Homesteaders, yeah.
So they have, in fact, they just started their own meat store.
Really?
So, yeah, it's awesome. He's the guy that did most of the renovation on our barn.
Yeah, he did an awesome job.
Ben Lauer, yeah, he's amazing. But yeah, they're homesteaders. I
Yep.
mean, they're at home. Their kids are. I'll get up and I'll go drive down the road at 5:30 or 6, and their kids are out watering the cows and the goats. And I mean, that guy is the hardest working guy I know, and it just gives me a glimpse into what it may have taken 100 years ago.
Oh yeah.
And I don't have that capacity.
Now you compound that with like a few feet of snow.
Yes.
And then things change a little bit. It
Yeah.
becomes a little harder.
Yeah, for sure. There's definitely an appreciation of it, but that's coming from a place of relative ease.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine, you're talking about this, but 100 years ago. So our home was built in 1912, I believe. So a little over 100 years ago. I mean, that's a big house. And I drive around, there's big houses around here.
Yeah.
I'm like, do you know why they build them so big? Is it because
Big-
of the families?
Big Catholic families, I think.
Okay. Because to me,
Catholic
I'm like, this
families.
is super inefficient
Yeah.
for
Most of these families had 7, 8, 9, 10 kids.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like Joe, my father-in-law, big Catholic family. I think it's 7 of them.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of,
that.
Yep. So
It's funny. It's also interesting as when you were talking about the vision and being able to share that and cast that with people. So Brecken, my oldest son, had his first football game a couple nights ago.
how'd he do?
He did awesome. They had a scrimmage a week before. It was rough.
Yeah.
And he had a bad time.
Well, he's shrunk down a lot too. He doesn't have that weight behind him.
That's
anymore.
right. And yeah, so he had a hard time, but then this last game he did really, really well. But it was interesting. So we got done and we were driving home, and in Lawrence there's a huge factory there.
Oh, you're at Fairfield. in
Fairfield. Is that right next to Lawrence?
Lawrence. No, Lawrence is the school in Fairfield.
Got it. Okay,
but they're
Fairfield.
savages.
Well, so they are like big kids and
Yeah.
like these are
Milk
big
kids.
hardy kids.
They're milk kids. Their parents will swear at your kids. That's that type of school.
That's milk kids?
Milltown kids.
Oh, mill. I thought you said milk. Mill kids.
Mill kids. Milltown. Rough place. That's
Yeah.
where Brian Littlefield grew up, on the railroad tracks.
Oh, we saw it right
yeah.
there. Yeah, we had the same in Utah. We just called them, farm kids.
Yeah, same thing.
it was the boy, like we'd go play Delta or Millard, and these are farm towns, and they were slinging hay, moving
yeah, farm
pipe.
boys.
That's all they were doing
Strong
all
kids.
summer, and we'd go we'd get there like these are college kids.
This kid got a full beard.
That's right. That's right. But as we were driving by this mill or this factory, I think it was actually my daughter, and she said, "That's awesome. Pete would love that place."
Oh, really?
That's exact verbatim. That's
That
what
is
she
so
said
funny.
without prompting, and I just thought he's casting the vision so much so that my daughter's starting to see it.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, that's funny actually that she would recognize that.
Well, I think that goes back to what you were saying about having so many new people coming on board too, is your ability to not only have vision and dream about these things, but you've done an exceptional job casting that vision. And I think that's really important for a man to be able to do is not just have his own thoughts, but be able to articulate them in a way that you can rally people around you.
Yeah, no, you're right. It's I don't know. It's just not that hard to do, I would say, as long as you like check your ego. I don't think a lot of people maybe have problems checking their ego.
What do you mean? How would ego get in the way of you casting your vision?
Because casting your vision means that you put yourself in a learning situation. Like if you're going to cast a vision, you're actually going to go to school. You're going to learn. You got to learn how to do the things you want to do, or else you end up just being a dreamer. That's really the difference is, are you going to dream or are you going to do? And if you're going to do and you haven't done, you've got to find folks who have done. Like I got to learn how to run a chainsaw. Like I had to be taught how to run a chainsaw. I had to be taught how to sharpen a chainsaw. Like you got to learn those things. I had to be taught how to swing a maul to cut wood. I had to be taught how to pull a truck out of the mud. A lot of people they want to tackle these things because they think they're the man, and they have the testicular fortitude just to do it because it's innate and they're born with it. Jiu-jitsu humbles that part of you too.
No doubt.
But yeah, a dream that's actionable ultimately is you're a student to be able to get there. And continue being a student, because if you want to continue climbing the rungs and hitting those different levels, you're surrounding yourself with people at each level that have been there and done that and can help guide you so you don't fall off.
Yeah.
So I guess I just haven't felt like we're going to fall off because we have so many really incredible folks around us guiding us.
So you said casting a vision is, well, you said, well, I don't know, it just kind of seems easy. And your ability to think about these big ideas seems to come fairly natural. Like, but what do you struggle with? Like, what are your holes, whether it's professional or personal?
Oh man, my holes are I used to get really frustrated that I didn't feel like people were working as hard as I was. You know, like that would like, oh, they're not a grinder. They're not willing to show up early and stay late. You know, and I actually learned something from JP Donnell. He was saying, you know, there are three types of people in an organization. There are squatters, there are renters, and there are owners. You ever heard this one before?
No.
What are squatters? Well, squatters, they truly aren't fully bought in, right? They come in late, they want to leave a little earlier, they ask to leave early, they show up after their lunch break, couple minutes past the break, you know, and they're a squatter. They don't always have a great attitude. They're not always bought in. They're not saying great things when they leave work.
There's probably some entitlement there.
It's total entitlement.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, those people have it all. Those people are so lucky, you know, yada, yada, yada. Squatters, renters, they show up on time and they leave on time. Might not work overtime, but they get the job done. You know, they keep their mouth shut. They may notice some things that, you know, are happening and that they could be working extra on, but they choose not to. You know, they're here for a job. And owners, man, they show up early and they stay late. They know where to cover and move. They see the holes and they fill them. They build culture. You know, they're ready to go. They're bought in. And, you know, and the idea is that you want to turn renters into owners. And so you focus on the owners, not on the squatters. Because if you focus on the squatters, then the renters see they're getting the attention and they become squatters too.
Sure.
Because misery loves company. If you focus on the owners, well, now the renters want to become owners because they see the positivity and the attention. Because honestly, being positive isn't as infectious as misery. It's very easy to, oh man, Ryan, man, oh shit, man, that dude took your arm home too much, man, and you hyperextend your elbow. What a douchebag, man. That guy's such an asshole. Not like, hey, man, you should have tapped early.
Yeah.
That's a little harder conversation to have.
For sure.
You know, so misery loves company. Positivity it's not magnetic. And to create a magnetic culture takes years. And when you're one-on-one, somebody's upset, you're going to want to console them. But when you have someone who's upset and you have 5 people who are positive, that person shuts up. There ain't nobody listening to their bullshit and whatever lies they're spewing or whatever attitude they have, because these people are happy to be here. So that person either becomes a renter to become an owner, or they leave, or they disappear.
Right.
So we really learned a lot about this during the whole coronavirus pivot, you know, and we ended up maintaining everybody that wanted to stay employed stayed employed. I think we lost 2 people. We definitely had some issues. You know, we had a young kid who had just started jiu-jitsu. You probably rolled with him, Mo, you know, and he was dealing with some things and he committed suicide, and he was a young kid. And it was really hard on the team. We had another one, her, you know, sister overdosed on drugs and passed. And of course we lost Lenny, you know, also. So it wasn't easy. But like that team came together like it was a wartime effort. I mean, it was amazing to see, working 7 days a week. And right when the whole, you know, the COVID thing kind of hit and nobody really knew what was going on.
Nobody had any idea.
We were the first ones to pivot and make face coverings. And, you know, and it was incredible to see. We lost like 2 people, you know, 2 squatters, everybody else still here. So I think that just is a result of like building like a really, really good culture and building a culture of either renters or owners.
Is there ever a problem with having too many owners?
Hell no.
So explain that
Too
to
many
me.
egos.
Okay,
Yeah,
right.
that's
Okay, I'm
different.
glad you made the difference.
Yeah, two owners, they're willing to win. They want to win. And winning means you set your ego aside. You know, winning means that, like on a football team, you've got two kids who are great quarterbacks. And usually the quarterback is the best athlete on the field. Which one is going to step up and say, hey, man, I'll play receiver or running back? Because they both want to be quarterback. So it takes a big person to say, listen, I know you're a sophomore and I'm a senior, and I know you're just as good as I am at the QB position. And instead of for me being on the sidelines, I think I'll jump in at receiver, or I'll go on to the defense. You know, like to be able to willing to think that way, not just to do it, not just to say it because it's the right thing to say, and psychologically hope that like, no man, you take, but actually to believe it and to buy it. Yeah,
there.
like not reverse psychology, like straight up understanding like there can be no egos if we're gonna win. There can't be.
Is that a coachable trait, or have you found that there's just people that are that way? I mean, obviously there's people that are that way, but is that the factor?
Coachable if you're willing to spend years doing it. It's not coachable if you think you can say it to somebody one time and expect them to get it. Like I have a couple of folks that I'm 7 years in on coaching them. And it's little strides, you know, just it's little strides and lots of conversations, lots of emotions, and a lot of, you know, crying.
What do you see in those people that you'd be willing to do that versus say, you know, this is a lost cause?
Because they show up early and they stay late.
So they have that owner mentality, but maybe not the skill set. Is that what you're saying?
They even have the skill set. They just don't have the mindset. The mindset to be an owner. You know, they are an owner, but they want to be maybe a dictator. And we don't want dictators. You know, dictators, they aren't liked and loved, and they lead by force versus just being a leader that people want to follow.
Right.
That is a hard thing to change in some people, especially dependent on that person's background and where they've come from and their experiential knowledge and how they've gone through life. And when you're trying to turn an adult into that, man, I've had actually one of our best employees, our best show up early and stay late. One of our best who was part of building the footwear, she finally said, I'm not going to change. I'm not willing to change. And we had to have that conversation. It doesn't matter how good you are, how much you can do, and how much is in that head. Ultimately, culture is the most important thing in this company, and we need to part ways.
Wow.
Sucks.
Sucks bad because you have a great employee or renter, right?
Yeah.
And so
Sucks. But the crazy thing is you can remove someone like that, and all of a sudden the team makes more and does better. And I've learned this a few times now over the past decade. Just like, oh, we need more people, no more hands. You know, many hands make light work. Well, you know, the right hands make light work.
right, because you could be, if my little kids come and say, hey, Dad, can I help you build that thing?
Right.
This is a bad analogy, but it's like help is a very subjective term in that case.
I mean, all things being equal, if you had 10 women and they were all the same skill set, and 7 of them were owners and 3 of them were squatters, you remove the 3, the 7 makes more than the 10. And I've proved that time after time after time. I actually got Andy to buy into that this year, the COO of our nutritional division. Yeah. He saw this because we had some issues. We had some squatters there, and we actually removed 2 or 3 people, and the team started making more. They started covering and moving. You know, they just started, hey, I see the hole here, I'm going to go fill it. And they did it with like at a pace. and with like a singleness of purpose. Like, this needs to get done. I'm going to fill that void, instead of standing there saying, well, I just got to wait till it gets to me to do my job, which is not the mindset you want, especially if you're going to be competitive with manufacturing in America.
For sure.
So, man, I just did a lot of talking.
No, it's good.
I don't even know how we got on that tangent.
I don't know. I'm listening because, I have people in our organization who are owners. I mean, and I haven't thought about it in this framework, but they're owners. Chris, who runs our events, like, I don't need to micromanage him.
Right.
I need to let him know, like, here's what I'm looking for. Here's what I want. Here's the experience I'm trying to create. What do you think? And he just goes and runs with it. And he has questions. He'll come to me and we'll hash it out. But there is another thought, though, here too, because I think probably, if we're going on the same analogy, that your squatters are going to be the highest maintenance.
Yep.
They're going to suck all the resources.
All the time.
Renters less so, owners even less so. But also, it seems to me that with owners, like, they've got some maintenance too, in that they need something. And,
yes.
and if they don't get it, it seems to me that they're good enough that they feel like, well, I'll just go out and I'm an owner. I've got the mentality. I'll just go start my own business. So how do you keep those people within the organization and give them what they need too?
That's a tricky question. First of all, I would say that if someone had the drive to, like, go out and start their own business, like, I would support them 100%. Like, if our best employees, like, I want to go start my own business, I'd be like, cool. As a matter of fact, some of our best employees will start their own business. Mm-hmm. Let's take Ty Nichols, for instance, in the media department. You think Ty's going to be at Origin forever? I hope he is.
Yeah, you would like that.
And I think he likes the idea of that. But I think someday, Ty's probably going to do his own thing. I think. I don't know this. I'm open to the idea that might happen. I'm not going to, like, hold him to anything. I'm going to try to give him the best opportunity at Origin. I'm going to give him, he's going to, and I shouldn't say, like, I'm going to give him. There is a platform for him to get the best education in what he wants to do in life.
There's space that you've created for that.
Yes. It's wide open space. They're self-managing. They have $250,000 in tools and cameras and this and that.
And it's an awesome department over there too.
And it's like, hey guys, make stuff.
Yeah.
Right. And whatever you need, I will provide it for you. This is a, what do you call it? It's a creative, there's a word for it. They do these things in, like, cities.
It's like a lab incubator or something. Yes. Yes.
This is an incubator. Do I expect Ty, to be there forever? I don't expect him. I hope that'll happen. I hope that when he's 35 and 40 years old and we're $1 billion company and we are America's next big brand, that he's an art director running the media department, and there's 100 people working under him. Yeah, like, that would be cool. But then again, if he wants to go do his own thing, man, hey, Ty, whatever I can give you to help you do that, let me know. Cool. Like, you got to let people do the things they want to do in life. We don't have a lot of them that would want to do their own thing because they are so bought into what we're doing. And because we started building the culture with the first 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 employees, and those same employees are still part of the company, and those 5 employees that were doing all the grunt work are now leading the teams within the company.
Right.
That culture just gets driven down. But it is a constant reminder, and it's a drip. It's a stream, that you gotta constantly build culture. That's hard.
It is hard, and like you said, it takes a long time. And what I'm getting is maybe more selfish than anybody might be listening, because I have this, like, Brandy, she works with me.
Yes.
And she's an owner.
Yeah, she's an owner.
She's an owner, 100%. And so she's just done a phenomenal job with booking guests and getting me lined out.
Yeah, you made me follow some, like, really important people. You got you got Shapiro, and then before him you had Crenshaw.
Like, we're getting some heavy hitters.
You get this redneck from Maine.
Yeah, that's right. You're gonna follow it up just great. So she's been doing a great job, and I told her the other day, and I said, look, my goal is to have you be here more, like, to have you do more here. and I know she wants to start doing some of her own thing. And so like
Yeah.
and I'm like, selfishly, I want to have you do more here, but unselfishly, I want to help you start your own business so you can do this for other people. There's a weird, interesting thing.
All you can do is cast your vision and make sure you're making a really good offer. And it might be more than you want to pay. If they say no, it means it has nothing to do with the offer or your vision. It has to do with their vision in the value they place on themselves or the risk they want to take or the direction they want to go.
Sure.
I had the same thing recently with a guy, Roland, who he's helped us build a footwear division. And I've known him for, I think, 4 years now. And he's been talking about coming over to Origin for a long time. I made him an offer that he couldn't refuse. Like, you don't refuse this offer. And he wanted to do it so badly. I mean, he literally called my wife and he was upset on the phone. Like, you could hear it on the phone. And he had to decline the offer. It's not like your vision or my vision or Amanda's vision. It's not the monetary side. It's just that people are on certain paths in life and certain times. You know, they're younger. They know they have more runway. They're older. They want to have more security. Their wives and kids and the things they want to do in life have influence over those things. And, you know, and you can't get upset at what somebody wants to do or somebody wants to try. And I think that actually is like something I've learned over the years. Because I would get upset if somebody that was really valuable would want to leave.
Totally, of course.
It would like piss me off.
Is that an ego thing?
It's not ego, it's selfishness.
Yeah.
And we're all selfish in some way. I selfishly want that person to stay with me. That doesn't have anything to do with ego. It's just, I want them to be part of my thing. I want them to be part of my gang. I don't want them to start their own gang. You know, it's tribal. It's a tribal mindset. And honestly, it's why we have the issues we do in the world. You know, we're tribal. We believe in America. We believe in the American dream. We're willing to fight and die for that. We're willing to go to all ends to make sure that our kids are taken care of, you know, to make sure that our families have the resources to flourish and the opportunities to grow and do things in the world. And we want to protect that. Well, that's a little bit selfish. But in order to build what we're building as a country or a community or as a company, you need that. So separating that away from somebody who's your friend and or employee and or coworker, when they come to you and say they want to do something else, you gotta see the difference between those two things.
Yeah.
It's really, really, really freaking hard to do. Really hard to do. And it's very easy to go and say to the other person, they're not all in, they're an asshole.
Right.
You know, they're greedy. You know, not the case. You're selfish.
Yeah.
So,
Well, I remember when I would have people leave. So we've got our Iron Council. That's our brotherhood, our exclusive brother.
yeah.
Early on, I'd have people leave, and I would take it personal.
Oh, 100%.
like not like, oh, I'm not going to make your $67 a month. That wasn't it. It was like, how insulting. Yeah. Like, you're going to leave, you're going to insult me and all that I've done for you.
Yeah.
It's like,
and
okay, hold up.
You have no idea what that person's going through.
Exactly.
You don't know you don't know where they are in their life. You don't know where they are in their mind. Mm-hmm. You don't know their background. You don't know where they've come from, you know, and people, and honestly, that's just, it's having empathy. And there's the other thing is, I always tell my son this word, this phrase, this thing. It's and I can't remember what it is, but there's a word I say to my son and daughter on building relationships, because you know, when kids are growing and going through puberty, they're very fired up and you know, the testosterone hitting. You're gonna have to edit this out, Ryan, because I'm gonna think of it.
We'll get it.
I'm not gonna
we'll
stop.
We'll draw it out of you.
Can't remember.
Well, maybe it'll come back.
It's a COVID.
Yeah, that's what it is. The fog of COVID.
The brain fog.
So yeah, well, I think there's a weird, maybe a weird dichotomy a little bit in that. Well, the word is you have to actually care about people.
Yeah, you got to give a shit.
Like Ty, that's a great example, or Brandy in my case. Like, you got to care more about them than you do in your own selfish pursuits, but also your own pursuits are important. And that's the dichotomy. The mission is important.
It is, because if you do care about them only when it's good for you,
That's not really care.
that's not really caring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a tough one to carve up. You know, that I didn't get that till my late 30s, early 40s.
What was the pivot moment, or was there an experience you had, or a little wake up or light bulb moment, or did you just gradually learn these things? It's a level of maturity for sure.
You know, it's the understanding that you are not in control. Not in control. I'm not in control, man. None of us are. So I believe there's a higher power in control, and that's it. I ain't in control. So I will do the things that I'm passionate about and that I feel right, and follow the pathways that lead to victory ultimately. And people are going to come and go, and you should try to maintain relationships and keep the bridges built, because you don't know 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road, if you're going to come across that person again. I could be working for Ty.
Right. Yeah.
In 10 or 20 years. I might be working for him. I don't know. This whole thing comes crashing down. Like, I'll be looking for a job. So keep those relationships. You don't ever be so high and mighty that you strut around with your nose up. I'll just never be one of those people, ever.
I just have faith that if you just do the right thing, like, things are going to work out.
Emotional intelligence. That's the word I was looking for.
Oh, okay. Got it. See, I knew we'd come to it.
Holy cow. Having the emotional intelligence. Having the emotional intelligence. That's learned. That is not something anyone's born with.
No, because we're greedy and we're selfish, and I've talked about it as the natural man. We're lazy.
Yeah.
We want the results without the effort. We want the shortcut. All of us. There isn't a single person on the planet who doesn't want that.
Yeah, it's 100%.
So you got to rebel against that guy.
You do, and that's hard. And you got to have the emotional intelligence to recognize when you're either the victim or playing the part, of that lazy man.
Well, I think it's also hard because we look at things on such a short-term level that losing a tie, for example, is going to hurt.
Sure.
In the short term. It's going to hurt. But over the long haul, it might be good for him, it might be good for you. Like, there's things that we can't see that will happen over 10 years, but that requires that long-term thinking.
Yep, exactly. And I just firmly believe that there is so much talent in the world. Like, I've got 100 people ready to move to Maine. Mm-hmm. And if we were just a small company that the public didn't know about, there's talent all around you, and finding that talent, it's a job sometimes, but there's always somebody willing to do what the person wasn't willing to do. There's always somebody willing to work harder. We talk about this growing up in sports. Oh, there's somebody working harder than you. There's somebody shooting more foul shots than you. Mm-hmm. There's somebody lifting more days than you. There's somebody going harder than you. There's somebody that wants it more than you. There is. There's always somebody that wants it more than you. And there's a beginning, a middle, and an end to everything. And you've heard me say this before. Like, I want to stretch that middle. I want to stretch that middle for as long as I can. And generational, if possible. And that takes, again, emotional intelligence, a lot of reflection, separating your ego, trying to be unselfish as much as possible. Of course, it's built in sometimes, but recognizing, there's more to come, and there's more to do, and there's more people to get involved, and that's life. So try to live it like it's your last day. Like get up in the morning with a fire under your ass. Like I live every day like we're a startup. Like,
dude, let me tell you.
I don't have anything.
So this is funny. So I get up in the morning and I don't like to check my phone immediately, but let's be honest, I quite often check my phone, right? So I get up, I check my phone, I see Pete on Instagram, and I pull up his stories. I'm like, oh shit, he's been up for 3 hours.
Not always.
I know, but every time I see it, I'm like, he posted this story of him driving, into the plant or whatever 2 hours ago. I'm just getting out of bed.
Yeah. Well, you know what? That's okay. I had shit to do, but like, man, if I could sleep till 6:30, I would, or 7:00. I mean, I brought
well, you can though.
Yeah. I mean, I could,
right.
So
why don't you?
I'll tell you what, this week, Monday, I put my back out. Monday, I had my daughter to bring to school. She woke me up at 7:15 because I don't wake up to an alarm clock.
Oh, you don't?
No, never, ever do I wake up to an alarm clock. My body gets up, and it's almost like the brain switches on the body, and I get up, right? So 7:15, Dad, what are you doing? Holy shit, Chloe, I'm sorry. I get up, shower, boom, out the door. I got to bring her to school. Tuesday, yeah, I got up at, 6:30. That's when I woke up. My wife was the first one out the door. I hung out waiting for my daughter to bring her to school. Wednesday, I got shit to do. Yeah, I'm up at 4, I'm out the door. Thursday, up at 4:30 out the door. Friday, up at 5:00 out the door. But that's because I had a sense of urgency to get a project done. Like, I got to get this project done. There isn't anybody else that can do it. I don't have anyone I can lean on to do it. And I've got a whole team of people waiting for me to get it done, along with a contract that's very expensive waiting for me to get it done. So guess what? It's on me. My ass is getting up. I didn't set an alarm. I just got up because I knew it had to get done. Just like a farmer would have to go milk the cows.
Right.
I mean, you want to talk about someone who gets up early. Like, those kids who get up to milk the cows before they go to school, like every day, 7 days a week through the winter, man, those kids are savages. Like,
well, and that translates over into life, right? Because they're like, oh, this is hard. No, this isn't hard relative to what Dad made me do when I was 10 years old.
Yeah. I mean, let's be honest. I got a pretty, like, at this point, like, I got a pretty not easy life, but I'm comfortable, and I in a sick way want to make myself uncomfortable. So I'll freaking invest in a factory, and I'll spend all the capital I have to the last dime to make that happen. Maybe to get a little uncomfortable again, but
is it that deliberate of like, well, I'm doing this so I can stay outside my comfort zone?
No, it's not that deliberate. I think that's like, my wife would say, and she's known me since we were 16, because you're just built like that, Pete.
Like
you're
what?
I find comfort in being uncomfortable because now I have a challenge and a mission. I was talking to Kip about this. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing. He's coming back from a hunt, 18 days in the woods. He goes, I finally figured it out. And I was like, well, being in the woods? He's like, yeah. Because it's the unknown.
The uncertainty of it?
The uncertainty of it.
It's exciting is what you're saying.
Super exciting. I mean, there's a guy that has everything in the world, right? Everything in the world. It's the unknown. It's the uncertainty. I mean, you could wake up and a grizzly bear could be eating you. I mean, from him, he's psycho. He's crazy. He's savage.
He's next level.
For
sure.
For me, it's that uncertainty of, man, is this North Carolina thing going to work out? I know I just put myself in a position that I need to be down there at least for a week or two a month. I'm going to get my ass from Maine to North Carolina, and that's exciting. I love that shit. What we're about to build, it's exciting. These things I have in my head, can we realize them? Can we manifest them? Are we going to be able to do it? And you could have a bunch of money in your bank account and cool, good on you. But when you're out spending energy and mental capacity doing something, bro, that's just, I can appreciate that. So
I do too. The phrase that's come to mind in the past for me is, let's find out.
let's find out. What's the worst that could happen?
Right.
You live in a teepee. You're not dead.
No, it's not even going to be that bad.
Yeah.
You're not going to live in a
Great.
teepee. You got friends. I got friends. Like you have a network. Like
Yeah.
if things go south,
Whatever.
you're fine. But let's
Whatever.
find out if you actually can.
Exactly.
And I think that's reason enough to do it, actually. So a lot of people are like, well, I want to do this thing and I want to try this or get into that or start this business, but I don't know. Yeah, you're right. You don't. How could you?
You'll get a loan for $75,000 to buy a new truck to strut around
Good
town, but
point.
you won't take out $75,000 and invest in yourself.
Good point.
You want to forge knives or axes or start a leather bag company or a hat company or a plumbing company or a fabrication company. You want to build trailers? Like, do it. What's stopping you? $75,000 get you a long way. Go buy a $2,500 truck to have the tools and the mobility
Right.
to do the things you want to do. People even switching jobs, same thing. Oh, I don't know. I have this job. It's so good. It makes so much. I make this amount of money. My family's taken care of. You put these external pressures on yourself, and by no means am I saying you should tell your wife you're going to be making a change and just do it without,
That sounds like
her
a man
blessing.
from experience or something.
Or if it's a woman without his blessing.
Sure.
But people don't invest in themselves enough. They don't take chances on themselves enough, even if it's just a slight career change or slight career shift to something you've always wanted to try, and you're not sure if you're going to be good at it. I think folks are scared. Well, what if I'm not good at it? And if I'm not good at it and I have to go back to what I was doing, then I've failed. And I don't think that's true. I don't think if you try something and you're not good at it, you failed. I think you've learned. There's a difference. You've learned, okay, well, that's not something that I want to do. And just because you got to go back to what you're doing doesn't mean you failed. It means you've learned, and now you're doing something you know how to do, so you can think about the next thing.
Yeah, but I paint failure different, and I paint it different. Like I actually, if that happens,
Yeah.
I think actually yes, you did fail, but I say it like that because it's really important we change the way we think about failure.
Tell me.
Everybody thinks it's final.
Yeah, that's what I mean. It's not final.
We're on the same page of the way of what we're saying, but I'm not afraid of failure. Like I'm not afraid to say I failed. I'm not afraid to say I fell short. I don't need to say or come up with an acronym. So I failed in that, and so like I'm going to learn something new from it.
You know what I feel when I hear failure is I got a lot of F's in school. Mm-hmm. I failed a lot of classes. And people took that as I would be the most likely to fail, the least likely to succeed. Cause I failed. Some B's, A's in art, C's, F's in foreign languages,
Sure, yeah.
F's in everything else. Okay. I got into college because I was a big kid who was athletic, who could play football. Mm-hmm. And I think for me, when I hear like fail, like you get an F, you fail, it means like you're not worthy to move forward in life. You're going to be a bum. And so that's why I use like, it's a transition. It's an opportunity to learn about who you are and transition to something else. If you lose 150, if you lose 500 grand, which we did last year because of maybe some not great planning, believing something could happen that actually couldn't happen. Mm-hmm. Do I look at it as failure? I look at it as an opportunity cost.
Tuition payment.
A tuition payment. That's an opportunity cost. But I didn't fail the company. I just didn't make a great decision.
Well, and I also think there's a difference between failing at something and being a failure.
Yeah.
Right? just because you failed in this little compartmentalized facet of business or life or schooling, it doesn't mean you are a failure. Like that's attaching unnecessary and too much significance to
Right.
a minor setback.
Yeah, and I think that it's easily interpreted that, oh, you failed that. That also, oh, you're a failure.
Yeah, or a loser.
Oh,
or
you're a loser.
This is not
You're
meant
not
to be.
worthy.
Yeah,
this is
for
not.
sure.
Yeah, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. I rarely use the word fail because my experiential knowledge, I have removed it from my vocabulary. Like I would never say to my kids, "Oh, you failed at that. It's okay." I would say, "Hey, listen, you paid the price, man. You know, hey Chloe, you paid the price. Like she's on a travel lacrosse team, and she wanted to get on the A team, and I think she's on the B team. So she doesn't get to go to Texas, which is where this big tournament is, just around New England." And I said, "Hey, when did you pick up your stick between the first tryout and the second tryout?" "Well, I didn't." "Well, so you basically bet on the fact that you would practice hard up for the first tryout and you did phenomenal. And then the second tryout, you didn't do so good. And even though the third tryout, you did great, you didn't get on the team you wanted." Right. I'd never say, "Well, you failed at it and you're going to have to figure it out and move on." I'd never say that to my kid. I would say, "Hey, well, that's on you. That's on you. So what are you going to do now to change that? You're going to, number one, work to be the best player on that team so they feel like they made a mistake, you know, and number two, it's a good learning experience. So you know that there are kids that are working harder. There are kids that are working harder than you. And if you really want to play Division I lacrosse, you're going to have to find a way to get it done." So instead of her like being like, "Screw this," every day she's been in the yard for 30 minutes playing wall ball. She picks up her stick and she plays wall ball. 30 minutes. I called her yesterday. "Hey, you want to go eat dinner with me?" "I got 20 minutes left, Dad. Come pick me up in 20. "All right, cool." So
That's awesome.
I think if the way that you would teach a kid, you know, because we are all kid-like in our minds, you know, we still have the same struggles kids have. And if you tell a kid you failed at that, move on, and you tell yourself, "Oh, you failed at that, move on," it's like a strike against your future, you know, growth and opportunity. So it's just psychological more than anything, even though it's just a word. For me, it's more of a psychological, like, how are you going to get the best out of a kid or a teammate or an employee or a partner? In that same way is how you're going to get the best out of you. So have that same conversation with yourself.
I think what we do is we put too much weight on past performance. And I'm not saying we shouldn't look at it. We certainly should. But what I think a lot of people will do is they'll say, "Well, I did this one thing and I didn't do it good, and so I'm a loser for the rest of my life and it's over."
Right.
Or alternatively, they did one thing really well
And they think they're the man.
and they're like, "I'm awesome. I'm amazing. I'm invincible." And then they just ride the coattails of some performance they had 5 years ago.
Exactly. Yeah, no growth.
You could think about even with take our podcast, very successful podcast by all objective measures. Well, this wasn't my first podcast either. I had another podcast, and it was called Wealth Anatomy, and I was helping financial professionals with their money.
Do you think you failed at that?
No, because I voluntarily quit or pivoted, I should say.
Okay, you pivoted.
Right. I could have kept going with it, but I pivoted. I'm like, okay, well, I don't actually enjoy this conversation, so I want to do something different.
Yeah, you learned about yourself.
For sure.
You learned about what you like talking about.
I learned that I enjoyed podcasting.
You love podcasting.
And I learned how to cut my teeth in the podcasting world.
There you go.
And then made a pivot. And from day one, it was like off to the races.
We're learning about who we are as a company. We're still learning. We're a decade in. And I'd say we know who we are at our roots, but we're going from, let's say adolescence, let's say we're becoming a teenager. We're not even our 20s yet. We're like 13 as a company. We're still figuring out who we are. We may end up being the world's biggest hunting brand. We may end up being the world's biggest workwear brand. Like we may be an incredibly big women's brand. You know, I mean, because we're actually entering all those categories. Mm-hmm. You know, and I know that like women's workout gear and women's jeans and women's boots, men's workwear, pants and jackets and hunting gear, like those are all areas that we're allowed to go in. But we may find our true identity in one of them. You know, it's like as a kid where you're, you know, and people would say you shouldn't build a brand that way. You know, you should have a clear vision of who you are. You know what my clear vision of who we are is? We are the greatest brand in America since LL Bean. We're the greatest brand in 100 years. I actually said to the guys in the media, a little side thing yesterday, we are the most savage company ever. If we were to get into a fight with another company, we would kill everybody. Starting with the 6 black belts. Like if we were like a hand-to-hand combat, like who is the most dangerous like corporate, you know, in the world? We'll take the cake. But on the product roadmap, we have these things we want to do. And we can project out how much, you know, we want to move product. But the mindset of our consumer, it's not just Ryan, you know, it's not just Jocko or just Pete Roberts, you know, it's actually the mindset of what Origin is, like reshoring our jobs, reshoring our machinery, you know, rebuilding our communities, resurrecting the workforce, saving the knowledge, making something with our hands that's heirloom quality that'll last forever. That's not just for you or for me or for Jocko or for anybody else. That's for everybody. And the market size and what we're able to inject for innovation into the things we build will determine how that thing grows. So, and we're still learning about that, you know, and that's okay. And we're going to make some major tuition payments over the next 10 years. I'm sure of it. I welcome it.
And that's a great thing too, is not only is it okay that it happens, it's a good thing that what it does is it allows you to experiment without any constraints.
Exactly.
Like we put a lot of constraints on ourselves. Like I can't do that. I shouldn't do this. I'm not good at that. I'm not good at this. Okay. What if you stopped saying that and instead you gave yourself permission to explore some avenues?
Yeah.
Some you're going to like and you keep going down, and others you're like, nah, I'm going to shut that one off. I don't like that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that creative process is so much damn fun. Like for me, it's so much fun. I've had to hire people to handle that for me. Like they're the conduit to getting it done. I'm not doing it anymore. Like with my hands, I'm kind of more like, hey, let's do this. And then they do it so I can focus on bigger picture stuff. But
is that a rewarding pivot for you?
That's a really, really good question, because I've thought about that myself. We just brought on a full-time designer, so I'm out of a job there.
Yep. Which is your background.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. I'm a designer. We brought on a full-time product development person, which we're setting up a whole research and development lab for, that can sew just as good as I, you know, that can develop just as good as I. So I've replaced myself with that whole side of the thing. Yesterday I was driving around trying to find out where I could help. And at the end of the day, I had zero impact, zero, on the success of the company that day. And when I was talking with Brian Littlefield, and he's making a bar, and I was like filming the bar, and I ate a piece, and then I shut the camera off. It was on Instagram. And I was like, I sat down, and the three of them were looking at me, and I'm like, what's up? And like, oh, you know, we're just working on this bar. And I was like, well, this is my last stop. I've been everywhere trying to help. I did help somebody move a box, but I'm not needed anymore.
It's like did you see Dumb and Dumber? On Dumb and Dumber, it was like, big gulps, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, see you later.
See you later. So I hung out for a while, and I was just like, okay, this is what I was supposed to do. I was supposed to work myself out of the job, because if you're not if you're not replaceable, you're not promotable. So I did work myself out of a job.
Hold on. I want to talk about if you're not replaceable, you're not promotable.
That's right.
Meaning you are constantly trying to replace yourself, train
100%.
people underneath you, et cetera, et cetera.
All the time, or just get people that are better than me. I want like star quarterbacks that are more athletic and can throw the ball further. Like I do, because the vision and the mission in this thing, it's bigger than me. It transcends me. It does. And I've recognized that a long time ago. So I'm always trying to find people that are better. And I literally have worked myself out of a job here in Maine. I have a new job in North Carolina, but we even hired it's a production and process manager. He used to work at Boeing. He's moving up on the 11th. He's been training jiu-jitsu for 5 years.
Nice.
My wife is working herself out of a job too. So, like to answer your question, what do you like enjoy more? How do you feel about, not being able to design? Do you like what you're doing now more? I would say that I wouldn't trade where I am right now in life for anything. Like I wouldn't trade it. I love building. I love the unknown. I just love the unknown. Like Kip was talking about with hunting elk. I don't know what comes next. I don't know how fast it comes. I don't know who it comes with. And I really don't know entirely how. I just know when I sit down in the airport in 3 years, I'm going to be watching people walk by me with Origin jeans on. I just know that.
And not have any clue who you are.
That's right.
Yeah.
And
Which is kind of cool, actually.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I love where I am. I wouldn't go back to sitting in front of a computer designing stuff all day long, even though that is my passion. Mm-hmm. It's just the progression. It's fun. It's enjoyable. I feel like I'm living in a dream sometimes.
That it's not real, or you don't deserve it, or what?
That it actually like happened. Like the fact that in 2012 we literally were cutting down trees in my backyard. Like literally that's what we're doing.
Right.
And sitting on a compactor vibrating sand so we could pour the concrete, and getting timber sawn out to build this little factory. Mm-hmm. And landing old cast iron machines, sewing machines, and a loom, and casting this vision that long ago, and now being here, where I thought back then in 10 years, I didn't think we would be this far. I know where we want to go, and it's like the pursuit of a lifetime. When you think about the pursuit, I'm talking 40 years, to get where I thought maybe we'd get in 40 years in 8 years. Like that's pretty damn cool.
Yeah, man.
And so even though like I'm casting the vision for the next 10, it might come quicker than that. It might come in 2, it might come in 3, it might come in 1. We're having some conversations where it might come in 1.
I know. I've heard I imagine some of your conversations.
Yeah, you're privy to the insider information.
Yeah. Well, you be careful of that.
Yeah.
I guess you're not public.
No,
so.
we're not public, and not planning on it. So yeah, man, it's a good time. I constantly think about like when my wife and kids head out, and I'm sure every dad does this, I always say a prayer every time my kids and wife walk out the door. Every time they walk out the door, the only thing that could stop or take this down is if something happened to my family. You know what I mean? That's it.
Sure.
That's the only thing that's stopping it. And
so even that at this point, I mean, it sounds morbid, but even that at this point where you have the team, that may not even stop it at this point.
It might not.
It may change your relationship with it, but
that's the only, I only feel vulnerable there. And I think that comes with age too. I often wondered if when young kids in the military, or like this, like Jocko in the SEAL teams, he said that the reason he got out of the SEAL teams, he didn't want somebody else raising his son. Right. I think that was one of the reasons. And did he feel more vulnerable because now he has kids? Like, does a person who's a warrior and willing to run into bullets and, willing to take the shot, are they more vulnerable now that, they had their firstborn and their secondborn and their kids are getting older and they're real humans? Like, I feel that vulnerability in business and in life also. I've turned gray. I'm 42. I want to maintain my health. I want to stay healthy. I want my kids to be healthy and my wife to be healthy and my family. And our parents are getting older. And I know there's a transition coming here. And 20 years is going to go by so quickly. So I think about these things and I try to leverage that to do everything I can right now, today. Like when I talk about waking up with a fire in my ass, those things run through my head. Be like, I gotta go. Mm-hmm. And so I get up and I go. And I make the best out of that day and the most out of that day. And that's like just daily reflection, constant daily reflection. And don't get caught up in the bullshit. I just don't get caught up in the bullshit.
And there's a lot of it out there.
100%. Don't get caught up in the drama. Trim the fat on people bringing you down, all that stuff. So,
well, you're doing it, man. I know you're excited about it. You got the fire under your ass, but it's even just inspiring to watch and see, and it's helped me do things in my business and lead my family and see like, whoa, look what he's doing. These things are possible. If he's doing it, clearly I can do it. If that guy's doing it.
You've been doing it, man.
No,
that's awesome.
It's good, man. So I appreciate our friendship. I appreciate your example. And just to be a very small part of what you guys are doing is pretty exciting for me personally. So
yeah,
I want to thank you for that.
Absolutely. And Ryan's jiu-jitsu is getting really good too. For those who
I don't know, man.
Those who don't know, the jiu-jitsu's coming along.
If you don't know, you're gonna find out.
You're gonna find out.
It's been fun, man. It's been a good journey. Like I feel somebody was asking me the other day. Oh, you know what? It was at our event. Somebody was saying, how long does it take to get good at jiu-jitsu? And the guy that answered the question said, well, like, what do you think, Ryan? I'm like, well, I've been training like steady, like consistent for 2.5, 3 years now. And I don't feel like I'm good at jiu-jitsu, but it is nice to know what's going on.
Yeah.
Like
you
I feel like
speak the language.
Right. Like I know enough where, maybe somebody catches me. I'm like, oh yeah, that was cool. Like that, like actually I remember rolling with Brian last week and he did something. I can't even remember what it was right offhand. And he submitted me, caught me in it. And I just appreciated it.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa.
You didn't see it coming.
I didn't see that. Oh, he had me in some sort of like Kimura with my elbow or like shoulder lock with my elbow, the way that he trapped it in. And I was like, oh, that was awesome.
Yeah.
I'm to the point where I feel like I appreciate interesting things I haven't seen before.
You know the language, but maybe not all the dialects.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Yeah.
Yeah, man, jiu-jitsu's super, super fun and important.
It is. All right, brother. Let's get to it.
Man, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you.
It's been too long.
Yeah, I was going to look and I forgot to look, but it's probably been a year or so.
Good times.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, brother.
All right.